ask you this. If you weren't related to your family, would you ever see them again? No. My family as a unit has not created a new memory since the early 70s. We get together every Thanksgiving and dredge up the same stories over and over and over, and they change every year. A lot of historical revisionism in our family. Somehow over the years, my Kafka-esque childhood has become a Frank Capra movie to these people. I noticed something interesting. It took me a while to piece this show together, and I dredged up a lot of memories, ugly and good. And this is interesting to me. Almost all of my childhood memories are summer memories. When I was a kid, June, July, and August lasted much longer than the rest of the year. And for some reason, the most vivid memory I have of my childhood is of a remarkably simple summer day in 1966. And I remember quite clearly lying on my bunk. This would be the lower bunk in our bedroom in Wood Village, Oregon. And my window was open right by my head. And I could hear a lawnmower way off in the distance. And this warm breeze kind of wafted through the window. God, it was so warm. And the breeze kind of carried that scent of fresh-cut grass. And I could hear my friends up on Maple Street just yelling and screaming. Mom was doing laundry, spin cycle, a little bit of bleach in the air. And I'm lying there with the sun on my face, just so tranquil. And I remember thinking I should go play with my friends. And I wanted to take a nap, and I thought I could go watch TV. And the great thing was, I did not have to make a decision. It's the beauty of childhood. And you didn't know it when you were a kid. I bet everybody in this room would have traded 12 for 18, would have cashed in that delicious sense of indecision for the responsibility of adulthood. All of my friends, I remember my friends pretending to be adults. They would steal a cigarette or a beer from their folks because these were the icons of adulthood. And they'd crawl behind the wheel of some old junker out behind Gil's garage, and I'd be in the back seat watching them. They'd crack open a beer and take a swig, wash away 10 years of their lives. Light up a cigarette, slide the car into gear, go racing toward adulthood. For what? I mean this. What was the big deal in being an adult? As shitty as my childhood was, it beat what the adults had, and I knew it. And my favorite time of the summer were summer nights, after supper and before being called in. And we had this big old side yard. We lived on Birch Street where it connected up with Maple there. And all the kids would congregate from like 6:30 till 10 or whatever that was. And we played games. We played kickball in the cul-de-sac. We played prison dodgeball out on the street because it needed to be straighter. Tommy Martin had a tetherball. I never understood the game of tetherball. Basically, tall guy wins. Is that it right there? My favorite game when I was a kid was played with a red four-square ball. And in Wood Village, the game was called Last Piece of Meat in the World. I think everybody had a version of this game. It had one rule: catch the guy with the ball, beat the shit out of him. That was it. The entire point of the game was to get the ball. You attacked the guy, pounced on him, dogpiled, we called it, pounded him, beat him, did anything to get the ball. And really, it was ironic you even wanted the ball, you know. And I remember this one summer night, dusk has settled over Wood Village, and all of the kids are gathered in our side yard, and we're playing Last Piece of Meat in the World. And I'm chasing my brother's best friend, Hagstrom, because he has the ball and I want it. And I heard our screen door slam, and I heard my mom scream. And I looked over and I saw Mom, who was about 6 months pregnant with my sister Candy. And she's wearing this blue terracloth bathrobe that she wore her entire life. And she's running frightened through the yard. And my stepdad Len is drunk and he's chasing her. And he caught up to her right where the sidewalk met the street and tackled her right on the concrete and called her a fucking bitch and grabbed her by her hair and dragged her screaming back into the house. And when the door shut, it was like this. Every sound was gone. And I remember being so embarrassed in front of my friends and so terrified for my mom. But I think that the amazing thing about that moment, and literally hundreds of moments just like it from my childhood, is that they're gone. For every member of my family except me, they have disappeared. Now, I think it is remarkable. I have no childhood memories prior to the age of 7. My brother Mike claims to remember the day my dad, my real dad, Jack Reyonlds, drowned in the Sandy River. Now, Mike was not even 3 when that happened. I was just born. I was a baby. And my girl of 21. And we were out at the Sandy River having a picnic. And Jack is swimming. And suddenly he got cramps and he yelled for help. And my mom ran out into the water to help him. And people held her back because the river was raging. And she stood there at the river's edge and actually watched her husband drown. And 2 years later, she met Len, my stepdad, who was an alcoholic, made our lives miserable for 7 years. I truly do not have one positive memory of Len. In fact, I called Mom 2 years ago when we brainstormed, tried to think of one good thing about Len. And we thought of one. My sister Candy, who would not exist today if not for Len. God, I have great memories of Candy. Most of them, unfortunately, are of me tormenting her, you know. I do remember this one night in Wood Village. Candy was 6 years old, and we're all sitting around the supper table. In the middle of eating, Candy raised a butter knife over her head. We all kind of looked at her. And very dramatically, she said this as an actual quote. "A knife is a knife and a challenge to the death." Where in the hell did that come from? I've been looking for that line for 30 years, watching TV every night. It's not there. And knives are actually a theme at our house around supper time. I remember once reaching in front of Len for the salt, and he whacked the back of my hand with his steak knife. "You know better than to reach in front of people." And he wouldn't let me leave the table, so I took a yellow paper towel, and I put it over my hand, and it soaked with blood. And I remember feeling really trapped, and not just trapped at this table. I truly felt trapped in a bizarre childhood. And another night, one of the many ugly fights broke out at the table, and this one grew so intense, and we're sitting there terrified. And finally, Len stood up, and he kicked his chair back, and Mom's terrified, picks up a knife, threw it at him, and it stuck. Literally an inch from his head in the wall. And I remember thinking, wow! Mom can throw knives at the dinner table. It didn't seem fair. We weren't even allowed to sing at the dinner table. This, by the way, was an actual rule in our house. No singing at the dinner table. Lord knows what kind of an anarchist I might have become without such parental guidance as that. I always used to wonder, why do people have children in the first place? Okay, let's be honest. What are children really but little stupid people that don't pay rent? Do you need those in your home? And pardon me for being Mr. Negativo. But every time I hold a baby, I have this sneaking suspicion that it would choke me to death for a cookie if it could. Everybody in this room, you are in one of two camps. You either have children, want to have children, love children, think children are the center of the universe, or not. I've always been in the or not camp. It's where the selfish people set up housekeeping. I never got kids. I'd go to my friends' houses with kids. It's a nightmare over there. Big hunks of ugly plastic crap everywhere. The smell of poop just kind of clinging there in the air. You try to have a conversation, you get like 30 seconds into it, and the kid is pulling the attention, needs this, that. Also, kids don't laugh at my jokes, which is a little thing to you. Big thing to me. We live in Petaluma, California. The cutest, sweetest, smartest kids live in Petaluma. Trust me. I will often stop. Well, there's one of them now. I will often stop one of these kids and tell him a joke. Juxtapose a couple of ideas to create merriment in their lives. And they always kind of... It's like I'm sucking their brain from their head, you know. Actually, last year, Lisa sat me down to inform me that I am frightening the neighbor children. This is not, trust me, one of my goals in life. There's a fine line with kids that I do not see. I will tease a kid, he'll laugh a little. Tease him, he'll laugh a little. Tease him, he'll cry. Somewhere between the laughter and the tears is a line you're not supposed to tread over. And I always do. If I had, I don't know, like a 7-year-old son, he would live in a constant state of terror because I don't know where the joke stops. I can imagine tucking my son in bed at night, fluffing up his pillow, giving him a little kiss. Night, son. Night, 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 night. I'd shut off his light, pause for a second in his doorway, just a silhouette. What is it, Daddy? Oh, never mind. You know, I thought I heard something in your closet. That's not good. That is not good. You know, I feel sorry for my sister Candy. When she was really little, I was horrible to her, in retrospect. Candy had what I would describe as a neurotic phobia of our vacuum cleaner. We had the big Hoover upright, right? 50 pounds, silver thing, lived in the closet. If Candy saw the vacuum cleaner, and this is every time without exception, she would scream and run terrified from the house crying. And I loved it when that happened. And I exacerbated the problem by nicknaming the vacuum cleaner Mr. Hoover. And I would very subtly work him into conversations, and it would always freak her out. Candy, that's a pretty dress. Has Mr. Hoover seen that yet? One night, I went way too far with the Hoover joke. I was literally grounded, 2 weeks for this, but it was worth it. This is about a year after Mom had divorced Len, and thank God he was gone. 9 o'clock on a school night, I have to put Candy to bed. So I grab her little Hanny. She's very tired, really half asleep. We go down the hall. Oh, she's yawning. Goes over into her room, over to her bed, pulls back her covers. There's Mr. Hoover. Hey, I hear people moaning. I was an asshole, all right? I went through my adolescence with 2 characteristics. I was extremely loud and very obnoxious. Which I admit, these are not good things to be as an adult, but they tend to make you popular as a child. I was unbelievably popular in high school, which is a curse. It makes the rest of your life seem boring.